I'm Davy. I'm awesome. And welcome to Davy's Awesome Stories, where I tell funny stories from my past or go on a rant in an effort to make you laugh. So it's officially December, it's Christmas time, everybody's doing their Christmas shopping. A lot of people are going to be doing last minute Christmas shopping. It seems every year there's a big toy out there that everybody wants, and people go crazy for it. Heck, they've even made movies about this. And personally, I never understood why people go through the lengths they go through over a toy. Like, I used to hear these stories and I thought they were embellished, till I started working in retail and found out they're not embellished. Every year there's one they go nuts for, and every year it's the same thing. People come in, want these toys for their kids, and instead of just accepting that, okay, well, you waited till the last minute, or even maybe you didn't wait till the last minute, it's just that hot ticket of an item, that good luck getting one, and they take it out on us. Always the same thing of, how could you not have this toy? It's Christmas and it's the most popular toy this year. Kind of just answered your own question. Like, some of these, they're legit like that. Like, I would tell you we sell out the moment they hit the shelves, but sometimes they don't even hit the shelves. Like, I remember the year that the Hatchables were like the freaking crazy toy that everybody wanted. Luckily, I worked nights, so I didn't have to deal with this. But the year I worked there, the people who unloaded the trucks would tell me when they came in, they'd set whatever boxes of Hatchables they got onto a pallet, take it out there, and just let people go crazy. And they'd be gone that quickly. So sometimes it really is just like good luck. And even weirder, people would track our orders. So they would know when they would be there, and they would line up to get these stupid Hatchables. So then when people would come in on my shift, which was hours later than this would even have been there, and started complaining, I'd kind of have no choice but to ask them, like, what do you want? It's the hot toy this year. To get one, you have to go do some research. You have to look it up. You have to find out when it's actually going to be here. And then you got to come here and wait for hours until it actually hits the floor. But it's ridiculous to me that people do this. I've heard some stupid, ridiculous stories. When I was a kid, I remember one of my parents' friends talked about the hot thing that year was the Nintendo 64, which my parents explained to us we weren't going to get one, and honestly, my brother and I didn't care because we were both PlayStation guys. We weren't all that into the Nintendo 64. Like, when we had a friend who had one, we'd play on it a little bit, but it was never something we were like so disappointed we didn't have one. But now back to my mother's friend. This poor woman wanted to get her kids a Nintendo 64 because that was the big thing, and they really wanted one. And in the midst of going to whatever store she went to, I don't remember, she was able to get one. She was all excited. She was walking up to the register to pay for it, because this is back when they would actually let you do that. Nowadays, they'll walk it to the register for you. But as she was walking, because she had gotten one and they were already out of them, some other woman came over and knocked her down, took the Nintendo 64, paid for it, and left. And it turned out that my mom's friend, as she fell down, broke her arm. Now, she won out in the end because she got a good settlement. Not just suing the store for her injury, but for the fact that there were plenty of people walking around who saw this, and they didn't do what they should have done, which is refuse to sell it to the woman and call the police. That's what every retail place I've ever worked at would have done. Now, no, I don't have any stories like this where somebody beat them up over the toy. I have plenty of stories of people beating each other up in these stores for other reasons, but that's for another video. And then another thing I love hearing from customers when it comes to the hot toy that year is, why don't you order more? And most of the time I would just shrug my shoulders and say, sorry, I have nothing to do with that. But year after year hearing this, like the year the hot toy was the Hatchables, or another year that the hot toy was one that keeps becoming the hot toy like several times since it's been out, a Furby. Or when the PlayStation 4 came out, that was the hot thing that year that we could not keep on the shelf. Or a couple years ago in 2020, the hot item that everybody wanted for Christmas, toilet paper. That was the year I finally answered somebody when they asked that question of why we simply don't order more, when I told them, we ordered a lot more than we got in. What you don't understand, though, is that's a hot button item that everybody wants. Not just in this store, but in every store that we're involved with, our competition, all of them are ordering a ton of it. And believe it or not, there are these things called distributors that are trying to give stuff out to everybody. So it comes down to, it's not how many we order, it's how many we can get. But again, I just don't understand these things. Because as much as I've talked about how weird my parents were, how little crazy they were, there's been a couple of times that, in my opinion, they've done things right. And one of them came to these hot button toys. They would not go through these kinds of things to get us these toys. They would actually sit us down and talk to us. Now, the truth is, there wasn't very many times that my brother and I wanted whatever the hot button toy was. As you guys who have been watching for a while have seen, the kind of movies that I review, the kind of movies my brother has reviewed with me, we're very into the kind of movies that the general public didn't care for. That extends to other things. Not just movies, hobbies, music, and yes, as kids, even toys. The kind of stuff that most people didn't want, we did. Like in no particular order, I remember one year, what I wanted for Christmas the most was the Shadow action figures. And I got pretty much all of them. The Shadow, a movie I've reviewed, was not very well received. I didn't care. I liked it, and I wanted the toys. Or sometimes my brother and I would want the toys to movies or TV shows we didn't even really like. For example, I wanted all the James Bond Jr. toys. You may be going like, what the heck was that? That was a cartoon that was on not very long, and it wasn't very good. I didn't even like the cartoon. I just liked the toys. My brother did the same thing, though. One year, what we really wanted, we wanted toys for the New Adventures of He-Man. Granted, the toys came out before the show did, and we thought the cartoon was going to be awesome, and it wasn't. We still liked the toys, though. About a year or so later, Demolition Man came out, and we wanted the toys for that. And we got them. Even though Demolition Man, when it first came out, was very poorly received. And kind of like with me and James Bond Jr., I remember one year my brother hit the big toy that he wanted. He wanted the toys to a TV show called Sequest, which was basically Star Trek underwater. Did he like the show? Not really. But he wanted the toys because they went with his Star Trek toys. But I do remember one year we did want the biggest, hottest toy, and that was a toy to a TV show they did not expect to become as iconic as it has. And that was the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Those of you who weren't around back then, you're like, what are you talking about? Those toys were all over the place. Those of you who were, you remember very distinctly. They did not expect Power Rangers to be a big show. They honestly expected they were going to get this out, might get a few views, maybe get a season or so, and that would be it. But it blew up. When it first aired, it was on in the morning before school, which is a terrible time slot. By the next season, it was on after school, which was a better time slot for children. They did not expect it to be that popular, therefore the toys did not come out until almost a year after the show had been airing, because they didn't expect it. And because of its popularity, of course, the toy makers were trying ridiculously hard to get the toys out before Christmas. So when Christmas came around and all the kids all want Power Ranger toys, there wasn't that many to go out. But my parents did try. They did. They loved us enough that they were going to go try and give us a great Christmas by getting us the toys we really wanted. They called every place they could get one from, and every one of them saying, we don't even know if we're going to get any, let alone enough. Let me factor this into you. When I was a kid, at the time, we lived in a small town, and there were two big cities near us. One big city that we eventually moved to had 2 Walmarts, a Target, a Kmart, a KB Toys, and a couple of other little mom and pop toy stores. Not one of them ever had one. The next big town over had 3 Walmarts at the time, now has 6, had 2 Targets, still does, a Kmart, that's gone, a KB Toys, a Toys R Us, and, again, a couple little mom and pop stores, and I think, if I remember correctly, there was another KB Toys in the same town. They called around and called around and called around. The Toys R Us was the only one that said, on this day, we are going to get a small shipment, and if you want to buy these Power Ranger toys, we are going to be selling them before we officially open our store, 2 hours before. So you're going to have to be there at 6 a.m. That particular day, even though we lived about an hour away, they got up and made sure they were there by 5:45. And by that time, there was a line wrapping around the corner. My parents came home, sat us down, and my mother just laid it out. Okay, guys, listen, because your dad and I, we're going to level with you. We got there 15 minutes earlier than they said they were going to start selling the toys. and there was already a line stretching way across the parking lot, almost out into the street. And then they explained to us how it was going to work. We weren't going to be allowed to go up there and pick out whichever Power Ranger you wanted. We would have to sit there and wait in line until all the Power Rangers were gone, and hopefully we would be able to get one. But they made it very clear that each person was only going to be allowed to buy one Power Ranger toy, and it would be random. As in, the worker was going to take it out of the box, hand it to us, and whichever one we got was the one we were going to buy. Meaning you guys could have gotten the one you didn't even want. Your dad and I heard this. It's December. It's cold. We were not about to sit there for at least a couple of hours to maybe get a random toy that you guys might actually want. So we are going to get them for you, but not now. Later, when these toys are out in the summertime or something like that, and there's plenty to choose from, and we can easily get you guys the ones you want, we promise we will get you one. And here's the thing, because of them explaining to us the ridiculousness of what it would take to get one Power Ranger. One. And a random one, too. Like Josh and I had told them, if you can get one, we both wanted a Green Ranger. If you can't get a Green Ranger, because we didn't know if that one would be available yet, I'll take a red. Josh wanted a black. But we both could have ended up with the Pink Ranger, which at the time, we wanted one eventually, but if that was the only one we could get, we didn't want to start with the pink. But them explaining this to us and telling us, when they start coming out and they're much more available, we will get you some Power Ranger action figures. You know what my brother and I did? We looked at each other, looked at them, and said, okay. And we meant it. Why? Because our parents had already instilled to us, they're just toys. Even back then, we wanted them really bad, but we still understood they're just toys. It's not the end of the world. Funny enough, the kids next door are neighbors, and on and off were my brother and my friends. I say that because it did go back and forth. We'd be friends, then we wouldn't be, we would be, then we wouldn't be. By the time we moved, we definitely weren't friends. But they were telling us how their parents had went there to do the same thing my parents did. Got there way earlier than my parents did, waited the entire time, but did not get close enough to the line to even get the one toy each. But the way these kids reacted versus me and my brother was ridiculous. My parents should have gotten there sooner. Now, thanks to them, our Christmas was ruined. Apparently, their parents should have sat them down and explained what Christmas is really about. And this is one of the times that my parents did something, and I've taken the same thing and done it with my kids. Now, like my brother and I, my kids seem to not be into a whole lot of mainstream stuff, so they've never wanted the hot button toy that year either. However, there have been times that they wanted something, and it just wasn't doable. But like me and my brother, my kids understand, are happy with what they get, because they understand that that's not what Christmas is about. For example, I can't remember if it was last Christmas or the Christmas before, but one of my sons, he wanted a video game that was very popular, and because of it, we couldn't find it. So we got him the next best one on his list, and told him when it comes in, we'll get him the other game. And funny enough, like happens in those situations, when he got that game, he liked it, but he still played the one we had originally gotten him a lot more than he played that one. If you haven't already spoiled your kids, then don't. Explain things to them. That way you don't have to go crazy feeling like a bad parent because you couldn't get them a freaking toy. Because the moral of this is, it's just a toy, they'll live. So there you have it, that's my story video this week. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure to hit like, subscribe, hit that little bell so you get notifications when I post new videos, and leave a comment. Tell me about a hot button toy you wanted, and whether or not your parents went through the craziness of what it took to get one. Love you guys.